What's your caught in a NSFW situation at work? The amount of odd PORN titles that have come up in my client's search history when I've done tech support is, yeah. What are some of the most creative searches you've seen? You know, for science purposes. I second this question. Just provide the links here, so we all know to stay far away from those sites. My old boss, who is married, has several kids, and lives a relatively successful life, used to have a shed that had an attic that was always locked. One day I was getting some fertilizer and mulch out of the shed and I noticed the attic door was propped open. My boss was off the property and I decided to sneak inside to take a peek. The moment I walked up the stairs there were two massive panels of plywood that had cutouts of nudes from Playboys and collaged together to make a giant 5x20 porn wall. A little further down he had like two magazine racks with literally hundreds of Playboys and an entire cabinet filled with VHS tapes and DVDs. For a while I was sort of dating our secretary. One day after work, after everyone had gone home, she came into my office and we ended up having a great time on my desk. About halfway through I picked her up and pushed her against the glazed glass wall of my office while she was straddling me. After I got tired, she turned around facing the glass and we continued until I finished. I had forgotten about the security cameras in the hallways and entrance. About 3 days later I get to work, and there is a DVD plus R on my desk, with a note, "Hope you had fun," and it was of the camera that points almost directly at my office, because it is on a corner. You could a lot more than I thought you could through those glazed windows. Security guys are either blackmailing me or a bro. A little bit of backstory on this one. I have a porn album on my phone. I'm not obsessed with it or anything, but sometimes the Wi-Fi goes out, and I still wanna get my nut off. The cover image for the album is a completely blank screen and the title is pornography. Seriously, dude, don't click on this. I figured that title and the lack of a cover image would be enough to sate the curiosity of anyone snooping on my phone, so they wouldn't click on it. Now that you know this, into the story. So I was showing a coworker some pictures of a sunrise or something else cool I saw that morning, and he takes my phone to scroll through them. Then, when he gets to the end of them, he exits the album and starts looking at my other photos. At this point, I'm getting pretty nervous, but basically freeze up and don't know what to even say. I try to ask him to give me my phone back, but I can't even manage to choke out any words anymore. He looks through a couple of albums of relatively innocent stuff before seeing my good old porn album. I'm embarrassed at this point, but I figure he'll just awkwardly give me back my phone and we'll pretend this never happened. Right? Wrong? I don't know the logic behind this, but he clicks on it, and in the split second before it loaded, his face had the look of "oh god, I just majorly fucked up" all over it. Right as he clicks, I manage to say "wait on," before he sees around 10 or 15 images that I don't want to describe in detail. I snatched my phone from him and nervously said sorry and took a bathroom break to catch my breath and get away from him. When I got back, he looked at me differently, but he didn't say anything about it, and we pretended it never happened. I was working a construction job a long time ago, and I was watching this beautiful woman who was walking down the street. Gorgeous legs, a short skirt and a low-cut blouse. I couldn't stop staring. But I probably should have, because I wasn't paying attention, and I got slammed in the head by a 2x4 that was leaning against something and fell down. I was wearing my hard hat thankfully, but I was dazed for a moment and had to sit down. It was then that I learned to appreciate work safety. At least you can remember the good part. I caught two female coworkers making out in a closet. Once caught, they tried to cover by saying "care to help us." Now here's a problem. I would have, but 3 of the bosses were right there with me. They hadn't looked into the closet yet, so I said I'll help later. Got the bossman with me right now and quickly motioned to my right. They got the hint, buttoned up their shirts, and got out of there. No one ever found out, but I never got to help. It looked like an interesting project though. Used to be a lifeguard and decided to take a break to walk the dog in the bathroom. Only had some family bathrooms, not really any men or women designated areas. So I sit down and whip out the old mobile device and start yanking the chain, when all of a sudden the door begins to open up and a younger dad who doesn't know how to knock, my fault I didn't lock it, decides that he is gonna walk right in. He then looks at me as I've got my dick in one hand and my phone in the other, and turns to his wife, who couldn't see me, and says, "Let's not use this one, it's pretty dirty." He backed out and closed the door. I have never felt so relieved, but so traumatized and a little mad. Mostly because he called me dirty lol. That's kind of a bro moment though. He basically saved you from even more humiliation. A little over a decade ago, I was working as a quality assurance tester at Sony. Rather than slogging my way through unfinished video games, though, I was tasked with watching movies that had been released on Blu-ray, making sure that all of their various features functioned as expected when accessed on the PlayStation 3. While that might sound like an amazing job, it was actually less enjoyable than you'd think, both because I didn't get to choose what I watched, and because I'd have to endure repeated viewings for every subtitle track, alternate cut, and ill-conceived piece of commentary that was included on the discs. One day, I was assigned the movie Eyes Wide Shut. If you're unfamiliar with the film, here's what you need to know. Stanley Kubrick was, and still is, famed as being one of the most driven and detail-oriented directors to grace the silver screen. If anyone else had made Eyes Wide Shut, though, critics likely would have decried it as a filmmaker's excuse to surround themselves with dozens of naked women. There's a scene, for example, that's literally just Tom Cruise walking through a graphic orgy. Each person involved is wearing a mask, but nothing else. Anyway, as with any of the films that I was assigned, I had to watch this 1.5 dozen times, at the very least, and given that my desk wasn't the most private of locations, my screen was completely visible to anyone who might happen to pass by. Word quickly got around that I was watching pornography, which prompted my supervisor to approach me from behind. "Maximum, what are you doing?" he asked. I kept my eyes glued to the screen, but held up the movie's case. "It's Eyes Wide Shut." "Oh." He stood there for a little while, staring, until the manager walked over. "What are you guys watching?" "Eyes Wide Shut," we both said. "Oh." Over the course of about 10 minutes, my desk was slowly surrounded by the entire management team, up to and including the department head. When the orgy scene finally finished, they all glanced around at each other, chuckled, then hurried off to focus on whatever work they had been neglecting. It was something of a relief for me, and not, as you might be thinking, because I didn't like having my superiors crowd around me, but because I had been seated with my head at crotch level for the entire showing. Like I said, I kept my eyes glued to the screen. I work nights in the reception at a small hotel. Once this older guy came down with his laptop and requested help because he couldn't make his porn work. So I had to update the guy's flash player to make his Filipino porn work. It was a bit awkward, but I'm not gonna deny some old guy his porn, so I fixed his computer and the dude was happy. I understand that it is awkward, but it shouldn't be. There are two types of men who watch porn, and men who lie about it. I was chilling at my grandpa's work between school and swimming lessons, mainly to eat at the cafeteria. He worked in the government of my shitty country and had an old computer in his office, but him being old he wasn't using it much. So me being a 12yo horny pervert and having access to internet for the first time in my life, found out about internet porn. I only watched it, but nonetheless there was a lot of disturbing porn traffic coming in through my grandpa's PC. This went on for months until my grandpa got in trouble for using a government computer for porn. I wasn't allowed to come to his work after that,